Why, hello and welcome back to all of my friends, my fans, and my fellow FTFLers to the longest running weekly episodic fantasy football show out there. That's right, boys and girls, it is time once again for the FTFL weekly update, and I am not only the host of this award-winning program. Not only am I the owner of the two-time league champion Hulkamaniacs. No. I am also that renewed sense of excitement, that energy that flows in through your veins upon waking each and every morning, knowing that another opportunity has been gifted to you, and you will take it, you will grab it by the tail, you will wrap it around your hand and put it in your pocket, and you will make the most out of it. That's right, it is I, Brett Sieber. Welcome back to the Frozen Tundra Football League weekly update. We don't call it that very much now, do we? The FTFL weekly update, 3 weeks down, and finally, Eric takes an L. But, is there more to Eric taking that L? Is there more to his 2-0 start and being the highest scoring team in the league history? And an old friend might have something to say about that. Also, finally, I get off the schneid and I get a win. Now, I'm still scoring lots of points. My team is relatively healthy, but boy, oh boy, injuries continue to pile up across the league. James Conner, gone. Austin Eckler, gone. Najee Harris, I suppose maybe not worth mentioning, but the dude's a human, gone. CeeDee Lamb, going to be out for several weeks. JJ McCarthy, by the way, insult to injury. Not only did he get bagged on for playing over Justin Herbert, then he got hurt, now he's got to sit, and Peter sent him packing. I guess McCarthy watch is now on. How long until Peter brings him back into the fold? Hard to say. Joey Bosa, gone. I mean, this just piles upon piles of injuries across the league, of course, having its effect on fantasy football. And also things in the league having an effect on individuals. Close games that come down to the wire on Monday nights. Another tight, I guess, moment for my hotspot. No. My hotspot, though, for 3 straight weeks has been toyed with, has been teased, and has had to hold back immense amounts of pressure, just trying to see its way through. How did it end up for him this week? We'll have to find out. Lastly, before we get into the games, I mentioned an old friend has returned. One that we don't often see a face of, but boy, do we know it all too well. The Number Muncher is back with some very interesting stats about what a 2-0 and an 0-2 start might mean. And with that, we go to the team who came into this week. That was for the Pack Attack. The Pack Attack coming in at 2-0, taking on, I may suck at fantasy football, but at least I got my keepers in. And wouldn't you know it, Matt gets the victory. 112 to Eric's 87.5. Matt moves to 2-1. First place now over Eric in the South. If you're Matt, Caleb Williams had an all-timer. He's not been around for long, but boy, this was clearly his best effort, 36 points. Kenneth Walker III and Jackson Smith-Njigba, a pair of Seahawks with 14.5 each. The KC defense, 14. Kyron Williams, 13. Justin Jefferson, 6.5. Going to be interesting to watch to see. Carson Wentz, I mean, is he better than J.J. McCarthy? I know Vikings fans secretly are probably hoping so, but at the same time not hoping so. I heard something funny last week on the radio. The bunch of Vikings fans talking about how really to be a Vikings quarterback over the last 3 decades, one word gets attached to you: serviceable. It's a lot of Sundays hinging your bets on serviceable. Anyways, with JJ getting the ball thrown to him for Carson Wentz, what is that going to look like? Will his numbers come up if Wentz plays longer? Will they stay mediocre or poor? I mean, could get interesting there. If you're Eric, Josh, the bum, got 22 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 13.5. Run CMC, 13. Again, pair of Peter's keepers, both looking still pretty good. Mike Evans, 10 points. However, the annual Mike, as I heard this on ESPN, the annual Mike, that's right, I give credit where credit is due here on this reputable show. Mike Evans' annual soft tissue injury, he could be out now multiple weeks. Derrick Henry, 8.5 points. Came out the gates just on fire. Last week got a 0. This week is better than 0, but still dropping the ball, not really doing much with it. Is Derrick Henry, is this the beginning of the end? I know it's only 3 weeks in, but boy, oh boy, if you're Eric, you sure hope not. Now, sure, Mike Williams is out. However, on his bench, he does have Keenan Allen, 13.5 points, who seems to be jumping right back in where he left off with Justin Herbert. Eric falls to 2-1, but more potentially bad news for Eric coming up in the Number Muncher segment in a bit. All right, second game of the week. My hotspot looking for action against the... Wait, Hulkamania, that's me. Not giving my... You know what? My hotspot, Jeff's team, taking on the Hulkamaniacs. Jeff comes in at 2-0. I come in at 0-2. And another nail-biter for Jeff. Over the first 3 weeks of the season, Jeff's games have been decided by a grand total of 5.5 points. This week, 2.5 points is the difference. 88.5 for me, 86 for Jeff. For me, Jahmyr Gibbs, 20.5 points. Didn't really have a ton of yards. That late touchdown on the pitch from Amon-Ra. Thanks, Peter, Eric. You guys are the best. That touchdown was everything. Puka Nacua, 11.5. Trey McBride, 10.5 points. Still a very consistently solid option for a tight end. Jordan Love, 8 points. Now, I didn't have anyone below 5.5 points, but let's be honest. I'm going to need more from you, Mr. Love, than 8 points on the daily. Now, this week, Jordan Love will play against the Cowboys. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the last two quarterbacks, Russell Stupid Face Wilson, had to get that plug in, and Caleb Williams both had career days. Just saying it, Mr. Jordan. Just saying. Let's make it happen. If you're Jeff, Lamar Jackson, 24 points. 26.5, 27 would have been the ticket. Couldn't quite get there. Seattle defense, 17 points, completely having their way with the Saints out in Seattle. Roma Odunze, let me tell you what, front runner for best rookie keeper from last year, 15.5 points. He has a huge just chemistry that's just continuing to grow weekly with Caleb Williams. TJ Hawkinson, 10.5. Now, Jeff's running backs are the point of interest here. He has 3 of them that he played this week. Ashton Genty, number 1 overall pick in the draft. Chase Brown, who he traded for from Sid, now for a 5th-round pick, not much, but for a starting running back on a high-powered offense, of course, Joe Burrow is gone, so that changes everything. And then Chuba Hubbard. They combined for 11 points. By the way, the aforementioned Genty, he's the number 32 running back in the league right now. Chase Brown, he'll do him one worse. He's the number 33 running back in the league. Of course, CeeDee Lamb got a 0 for Jeff. That stung as well. I'm never looking for anyone to get hurt, but listen, if CeeDee Lamb's got to not play when he rolls his ankle so he can be healthy for the future, I am all for that. Both Jeff and I's had to go. Jeff falls to 2-1. I rise to 1-2. And next up, the Valhalla Vandals coming in at 1-1, taking on the Mixing Cocktails at 1-1. A rematch from week 1 of the season. Of course, we know how that went. Peter got a win over the reigning defending champion, Andy. This time, flip the script, 93 for Andy, 75 for Peter. If you're Andy, the Pittsburgh defense, that's right, the Pittsburgh defense led the way with 16. Garrett Wilson, 15. Devontae Adams, 13.5. Dak Prescott and the Indy kicker, somebody named Spencer Schrader, both notched a dozen. If you are Peter, boy, Jordan Mason, 18 points. Bright spot there. If you're a Vikings fan, I know the Vikings fans, good God, just tone it down. I've been trying all week to tell Vikings fans, don't get your hopes up, because we know how this ends. Yet, almost every one of them, to a fan, has hopes just blowing out the ceiling right now. And I'm like, all right, well, don't say I didn't try to protect you all from yourselves. Harrison Butker, 13. Justin Herbert, 12. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, he played both of the Miami receivers. With the way Miami offense has been playing, definitely a gamble. 10.5 points, that's respectable, but it wasn't enough to get it done. Alvin Kamara, 2.5. Deebo Samuel, 1. If you want to know where Peter lost the game this week, yeah, it happened in that moment. He has lost 2 since that first win. The Peter meter will return next week. Boy, oh boy, he better look better this weekend in week 4. Otherwise, he might be in and amongst the flames in the big green dumpster. Speaking of big and green. I know you all remember back sitting on those Apple IIes, and it's funny, actually, I say green. I have no idea if they were green. It was a grayscale screen, but I saw them as green, the Number Munchers. What a fun game that was. We'd sit there and we'd play that in the computer lab. Now the computer lab is like in every kid's pocket. It's wild. But Number Munchers were great. I love that version. I've not necessarily been a fan of the other Number Muncher. And let's be honest, he vandalized the FTFL studio. So I really shouldn't be expected to be cutting him any slack. However, I do welcome his insight, his stats from time and again, and it has been a staple on the FTFL Weekly Update over the years. And so now I bring to you some more Number Muncher stats. All right, so I mentioned it earlier. Eric started off the season 2-0. Highest scoring team, looking to just be dominant. The Number Muncher thought, all right, when is the last time that we've had a team start 2-0 and be the highest scoring team in the league? Now, the league website, which we pay for, and maybe this is a discussion for John to grunt along at, or John to grunt along at next year's draft, or maybe even before then. The thought with our website is, hey, it's the archive system. It has all of the data. I tried, and so did the Number Muncher, to go back further than 2017. Pretty darn difficult. So, since 2017, we have had 6 other teams start 2-0 and be the highest scoring team. And none of them went on to win the title. Is that a harbinger of things to come for Eric? Hard to say. Back in 2017, Sid came out the gates. Now, the 3 second-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks, along with his first and third in the draft, sure didn't help him build up a war chest of talent. However, he sputtered his way to a 6-7 finish, going 4-7 down the stretch after starting 2-0. In 2018, John had the honor of going 2-0 and being the highest scoring team. Finished in 4th place at 9-4. In 2019, Sid again. Sid likes to start fast and then seemingly struggles to finish. 2nd place for him, 8-5. In 2020, something named Ryan Deesum. I'm not entirely sure who that is. Maybe, I'll look into that. Finished 2nd at 7-6. In 2022, Jeff also 7-6, finishing in 4th place after starting 2-0 and be the highest scorer in the league. And in 2023, Adam Saltmarsh had a great season. The best of the bunch, 10-3, was good enough for 2nd place. Now, those are the teams that have started 2-0 and been the highest scoring team. But what about a team being the 2nd highest scoring team to start the season and starting the season 0-2? By the way, until this year, that has never happened since 2017. The highest a team has been at 0-2 has been 5th in points scored. So don't let the record fool you. My team's going to bring it each and every week. Number Muncher, thanks for the stats. Keep on munching, buddy. And let's get back to the games. All right, next up, the Radioactive Monkeys coming in 0-2, taking on Make America Great at 1-1. The Monkeys, 0-2. Maybe their O was going to go. And even though they've scored more points than they did last week, and which was more points than the week before, 100 points, heck of a game. But when your opponent scores 105, it's still going to count in the loss column. You fall to 0-3 and are still the only team without a win. If you're Sid, good God, the Minnesota defense. If you had the Minnesota defense on your team in any of your leagues and lost, shame, shame, shame. 17 points for Amari and Hampton. Now that Najee Harris is out, we're being told that they're going to split carries, but Hampton is probably in line to have his production increased. And if you're Hagan, it couldn't come a moment sooner. George Pickens, speaking of players whose load should get a little bit heavier, 12.5 for him. CeeDee Lamb might be out for 4 weeks. Pickens' numbers should come up. Dicker the Kicker, 12. Danny Dimes got himself 10 points. David, the bane of my existence, Montgomery, on the bench, 22.5 points. That dude, as I was watching on Monday night, especially when he ran that last touchdown in, giving Lamar Jackson ample time to hit a 10-point touchdown and end me, and then to see him hit Justice Hill, and Justice Hill bouncing off would-be tacklers. I'm like, oh my God, David Montgomery is going to screw me again. Thank goodness it didn't come to that, but Sid's got to feel good knowing that Montgomery's role might be increasing if Jahmyr Gibbs can't start getting a few more yards with the carries he's been given. If you're Adam Adam has a 1-2 punch on his team that should have resulted in at least one win so far. I have this same tandem in another league, and I am 3-0. Jalen Hurts, 30 points. Jonathan Taylor, 29.5. Those two dudes, pick out the rest of your lineup as best you can, which I think is the problem for Saltmarsh because there's not much. Those were the only two in double digits. Four of the players, were at 5.5 or fewer points. Again, getting better every week, but still losing. Sid marches to 2-1. Salty is 0-3. Maybe next week. Adam Saltmarsh. And lastly, in the Who's Who Bowl, Team Dickweed, 1-1, taking on Team Linkowitz at 1-1. And wouldn't you know it, Linkowitz gets the win, but falls to 1-2. That's right. I'm not screwing it up this time because, as we know, John Linkowitz is the person running the show for Team Dickweed. Adam Swart, well, he's just Linkowitz. 81.5 for John, 73 for Adam. Nico Collins playing well on a just abysmal. Dude, the Texans are terrible. CJ Stroud, I think someone might have been sold a false bill of goods. I mean, he's an Ohio State quarterback. There was talk maybe he's going to break that whole streak, and maybe we're finding out that's not the case. Matt Stafford, 18 points. Will Reichard, who all Vikings fans love to touch themselves every time he comes onto the field, 15. James Conner, 3.5 points, and they will be the final 3.5 points for James Conner this season because he is out. I'm sure John's got 5 or 6 rookies he can slide into that spot. Whether or not it's worth a hill of beans, that of course is what's left to be seen. If you are Swart, you got to be happy. AJ Brown came back to life, 15 points. James Cook, 13.5. The Philly defense, 13. Patrick Mahomes, 10. Brian Thomas Jr., 3 points. He was averaging 11 points throughout the 24 season, and definitely more than that in the second half of 24 season. This year he's averaging 4.5. Where's the production for Brian Thomas Jr.? Mark Andrews, 21 points on the bench. So the first couple weeks, it kind of looked like he was had lost it, was the odd man out. Clearly, they made an effort to get the ball to him this week, and he took it and ran. Speaking of running, let's run through the dud, and talk about the games next week and get up on out of your stud of the week. Caleb Williams, best game as a pro, 36 points. I still think it's the Bears. I still think I'm not entirely sure how it's going to play out. But for this 1 week, you, my friend Caleb, were a stud. Dud of the week. I mean, I could say CeeDee Lamb because, you know what? I told you, you don't lay down on the job when the camera's rolling. Yeah, you know what? I don't care that you beat me up last time. That was one time. Blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again, buddy. You just zip it. Sorry that we got interrupted there. I could have said CeeDee Lamb for 0 points, but he got hurt. Instead, I'll say just running backs. I mean, remember, Ashton Jeanty, number 1 overall pick, an off-season trade trying to improve his team, Chase Brown, neither of which is doing a whole lot for him in this moment. Yes, Jeff is 2-1, but how long can he get 11 combined points from 3 running backs and still win? That's going to be a tougher boat to float. You know what? I thought about adding David Montgomery to the list this week. Right now, pal, you're on probation. One more screw up. One more. Just one more. David the Bane of my existence, Montgomery, and you will make the list. All right, with that, let's talk about the list of games in Week 4. Week 4, here we go. My hot spot, after taking a bit of a beating last week, looks to get back in the right shape, I guess, against the Mixing Cocktails. Both teams 2-1. This is for first place in the North. The Pack Attack at 2-1, taking on Team Linkowitz at 1-2. I may suck at fantasy football, but at least I got my keepers in at 2-1, taking on Make America Great Again, the old high school buddy bowl, and for battle of first place in the South, because of course now Sid is 2-1. The Hulkamaniacs coming in at 1-2, hot off a victory for once, taking on Team Dickweed at 2-1. And lastly, but not leastly, the Valhalla Vandals taking on the Radioactive Monkeys. Valhalla 1-2, Radioactive 0-3. Adam, this is your chance. Now, of course, I'm sure you'd like to beat him after he forgot to submit his lineup and hosed you last. I mean, whether or not you're still upset about that, hard to say. But if you lose to the guy that didn't have keepers nor a first-round pick and fall to 0-4, that might be a hole that's too far to dig yourself out of. But you know what? That's why we play the games. And thank you for playing the games with me. I love this. I love our... You know what? Until next time, peace. Wait. Peace. I blame that on you, pal. I don't understand what your deal is right now, but you better shape up or you'll be shipped out. So what do you say? You gonna help? What happened to your eye? No, actually, my eye is fine. I mean, I was. If you need to know, I was kind of going to pick my nose earlier, and I kind of stopped paying attention, and I like moved suddenly, and I jabbed myself. The doctor says I'm gonna be fine in a couple of days. There's nothing about my eye. Are you gonna help me find John Linkowitz? Huh. Well, listen, Bart. Yeah, I went to jail because of you once. I even died briefly because of you once. But you're darn right I'm going to help you find Linkowitz. Let's go.
Well, all right, this is great. Let's go.